Hey everyone, welcome to another Founder Wisdom Podcast, Sales Edition. Today with us, we have Justin Michael and Julia Nimchinski. They're both co-founders of Nimchinski Michael, which is a consulting agency. We're going to talk about sales. We're going to talk about reinventing virtual events. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship and marketing. It's going to be exciting. So first, Julia, can you introduce yourself? And Justin, you can follow up with your short introduction.
Excited to be here, Chard. Yeah, I'm Julia Nimchinski. I'm an entrepreneur. Prior to that, I've been an entrepreneur. And that's how I met Justin. I launched a company within a company, a startup within a startup. He became the face of it. And yeah, I have my experience in marketing. Spent a decade working in early stage Salesforce ecosystem, sales tech projects, startups, and yeah, I've been a CMO, been product marketing, PR, content, you name it, wherever had. Justin.
Awesome. I'm Justin Michael. Been in sales for quite a long time and always exploring the intersection of technology futurism and where sales is going. And it seems like since ChatGPT got here, people really are scared it's going to get replaced, but I beg to differ. So I've had the pleasure for the last couple of years of working on projects with Julia around go to market. And back when we started, I never even saw GTM, and now half the profiles say GTM, and it's like an SDR. So that's kind of cool. So I really credit Julia with a lot of the trends and awesome creations you'll see.
Your background, both of your backgrounds, kind of uncommon, and how you guys met. Julia is like really futuristic, and yeah, I don't often see your profile, Julia. JM also, obviously, you're quite special. So I want to hear how you guys met. And I mean, I've been working with some co-founders in the past few years, not always been fruitful, but I'm still 100% up for the task, and I still have hopes that I will find many co-founders that I can, have win-win relationships with. So I want to hear you guys on that first.
Yeah, so I was probably on JM's pipeline when he was sending his manuscript to his book, Tech-Powered Sales. And I received it and started digging into it and reading it and found it the most disruptive and innovative book in sales. It is actually, effective and not be as focused, which is super common. I'm a marketer, but all of the books that I read are just focused on entrepreneurship and sales. So yeah, that's how we met.
And Juliet, I mean, you look like a model, like you're in sales, you're futuristic, you live in Tel Aviv. Like, tell me a bit more about your background, because your LinkedIn doesn't say much, and you're an odd profile in a good way.
Yeah. So people generally think that I'm a bot. And it's funny that you mention it. Like they think that, Justin just running this profile feeder to JMM industry and consulting. But yeah, I know 5 languages, which you probably could figure out by my family name. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. They traveled a lot. So yeah, I got my master's degree in interpretation. And that's how I got into technology, by just simply copywriting and writing content for sales tech companies, and then just started running ads and doing product marketing, and just became a CMO, and I mentioned.
And I mean, both of you are virtual type of folks. I'm that way too. The co-founder relationship needs to be deep. How often have you guys met physically?
Why meet physically if we like doing it like this?
Well, that sounds like a normal answer to us, but for most people, it's not. I was listening to an MFM podcast not so long ago, and they pretty much said the same. But I don't know, for co-founders, I don't think I'd have a problem with that either. Still, like, how did you deepen that relationship? Did you guys start with just rev sharing, or how did the relationship proceed into, okay, we're gonna start something together? Was it like JM seeing something in you, Julia? Was it like vice versa? How did that came about?
So I hired Justin when I was working in another company, as I mentioned, and I founded a startup within a startup. It's Method Hunt. If you know Product Hunt, and I assume that you do, Charles. So it's basically the same concept, but in just aggregation of different sales methodologies. And it had this media feeder to it, where basically we launched the first cold calling competition ever in B2B. Now everyone is doing it, but 4 years ago, no one was. So we had Aaron Ross competing with top SDRs from Gong and Outreach, and it just created massive pipeline for the company itself and their main product. And yeah, so Justin, I invited him to coach the sales team. I was working with him on a daily basis, and eventually we just started to do consulting for other companies that Justin actually involved me in. And yeah, then I had this idea. I had an initial different co-founder. She told me that one day, that she's not going to do it with me because she can be always on like me. So I thought, who's the only person, like, who's that person that is like even more on like than me and like working around the clock? And it was Justin. Every time, like, she's basically available around the clock, chatting in his WhatsApp group, Discord, everywhere, consulting on sales, doing cold calls live 24/7. I offered him to be a co-founder, and he said no. Justin, you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I mean, the original thing we did was a cold call competition, and I think the groundbreaking thing there is having like Aaron Ross go up against an SDR. And Julia kind of said, it's in the book, like, hey, you want to do sales? People do marketing drills. And I just thought, no, I just want to do cold call battles. But for a lot of reasons, there's been a convergence of the technology where sellers and marketers are sitting in platforms like Outreach and Salesloft and trying to forecast and do guided selling. So it, she convinced me that the way to go was to open this up across a T shape, which I'd never seen. I don't know, Julia, if you want to clarify that, because I'd literally never heard of that as a seller.
Have you, Charles, before I clarify?
T-shaped? No, I have the mental model, but no, like vertical or horizontal, vertical. Explain more.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. So in marketing, there's this concept of a T-shaped marketer. So it says basically, if you want to succeed in marketing, you have to really go deep in your knowledge in one marketing function or two max, and then have a general understanding of all things like SEO, advertising, content, et cetera, et cetera. It depends on what you're doubling down on. So we scaled it to go to market. And that's the whole concept of everything that we're doing, that if you want to be successful in sales, you have to know that what you have, just it's not, kind of nice to have, but you have to have good communication skills, copywriting skills. You have to know how to build your brand. You have to know how finance work. You have to do good customer discovery, market discovery. And all of that is part not of sales only, but marketing, finance, product, demand gen, PR. Again, like even UI, UX, or engineering, you have to know general principles and have a basic understanding of how these functions work.
Question for you guys. These calls, these competitions, they're kind of mock, right? They're not real. Have you thought of making them real? Two questions inside that one. So one, rent out an arena, just like esports style, in which there would be two teams, 24 hours, and the final sell, or the one that gets the most stripe transaction win. And yeah, second, well, we could probably reproduce that virtually as well. Is that in the pipeline?
So I don't know, maybe it's me being, too young or part of a Gen Z mentality. I'm actually not young. I'm 30, but I look like you mentioned. So, Charles, we believe in all virtual. and the elimination of, BS kind of habits that people tend to have in startups or generally every aspect of life. So there is no reason to go in person if you can do it remote. Let's be clear. Like, there is no reason to have every Zoom meeting in person, right? Or every podcast or conversation. If you're asking whether GTM games will, be one day in person, you have to understand that there are 9 days involved and like 12 people involved on the contestant side. And then we have VCs every game. And then we have like the top of the industry. So if someone's gonna sponsor us to do that, happy to go in person. As long as we're bootstrapping it.
What about real transactions?
Like ticket prices?
Yeah, like literally let's say you put like nose to nose my cold email company with another cold email company. Me vs another founder, give me a team of like 2 or 3, and we compete on the one that gets the most transaction in 24 hours.
Will you be able to sponsor the involvement of top coaches in the industry, that kind of event?
Well, we could go more innovative and you could take like 5% of all my transactions.
Not enough. The thing that people don't understand, Charles, is that GTM Games is actually became one of the most financially successful event series and communities ever. We partnered with 70 top sponsors in B2B thanks to Justin's brilliant sales skills. And yeah, it's just we are building a product, bootstrapping a product currently. We're gonna announce it soon. So it's not that, we're event people and just love to run business
Well, you're
competitions
innovators.
for life. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's say hypothetically that I could generate 100K in one day. 5% of that, yeah, that's still like good numbers. 5K times 2 in my competition, that would be 10K in one day, which is not too bad, right? But that could be interesting. I had that in mind myself, so I thought, it was kind of cool, this idea. We've seen that League of Legends type of competition that are physical. Doesn't need to be physical, by the way. But I love the idea. It's really, really cool what you guys are doing. JM, I want to hear you on the virtual stuff because I commented on one of your posts. I'm the same as Julia. I'm like 100% remote all the time. I've been a nomad since the past 7 years, and I don't know really what physical mean. I think I've met one of my 80 plus employees in the past 7 years. So what do you think about physical? Because you were mentioning that physical meetings convert 100x better than virtual ones, and and I guess a bunch of Gen Zs were kind of uncomfortable meeting folks physically because it's inefficient, and I don't know, like the awkwardness of it. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's just more if you hook up an MRI to the brain and look at what happens in person versus over a 2D screen or even a 3D Oculus, like, whatever you believe, our system that's very ancient is able, 90% of communication is nonverbal. And we're picking up a lot of that now, and that's good. And it's inferred from the screen. I think the pandemic taught everyone to sort of suspend reality there and allow for that trust to build. So it's accelerated it, and I think the hybrid world stays. I still encourage sellers, if they can meet people in person, that's great. But yeah, the majority of this entire thing we've built, we've never met anybody. It's just kind of wild. So it does work. Virtual's here to stay. But if you can get face to face, do it at some point. I mean, if you're going to do a giant 7-figure deal, it could help.
Julia, can you tell us more about the success of Hype Cycle and like the numbers, if possible? Like, how do you rank up yourself against well, there's no like similar events, but who would be the competition and what would be the goals for this 2023 while we're in the recession?
Yeah, so we're by numbers and popularity in the industry, we're the third community, top community in B2B for go-to-market professionals. And yeah, I mean, our biggest compliment Charles, is probably the messages we're getting from our community members. And I don't want to be cheesy here, but when people are reaching out and asking me at scale, from time to time, hey, can you give me the access to your recordings, guys? That I have this interview coming up next week, job interview, and I want to drill a little and just I know the exact match that I want to rewatch. So that kind of a use case that I haven't imagined that would happen at all, and it's the biggest compliment and market adoption validation for us.
100%. Competitors, would it be fair to mention Rev Genius or Bravado?
It would be fair to mention Pavilion and Rev Genius, yes, but it would be also fair to account that these two communities have a little different focus and they're a lot longer in the market than we are. So it's it's not even our second year in, and we're already the third biggest community in B2B.
Any one of you can answer that one. How do you make an event successful? Because I've been invited to those. I mean, it's of interest. It's cool to be competing, practicing, although I practice on 20 plus leads per day. That's what I generate in my pipe. I guess I'm not like most, since I run a company like, a lead gen company that books my calendar fully every day. But how do you attract these folks and make the event actually exciting? I also don't like waiting as a CEO. Let's say that I'm in a room, even like listening to indications kind of triggers me, right? Not so long ago, I was invited to be a mentor on multiple accelerators and founder programs, founder mentorships programs, and just waiting and listening made me tick, like I was doing something else. So how do you keep me stimulated? Am I your core audience? Also, there was like 10 questions in there, but I'm going to count on your super brain.
Charles, so the short answer to that is customer discovery. I'm a huge fan of Steve Blank and 4 Stages to the Epiphany. Have you read it?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, 4 Stages to the Epiphany by Steve Blank. So
I haven't read that one though.
Hugely, like it's probably one of the best, and if not the best book ever written on startups. I'm rereading it like a Bible every 6 months or so. The big premise is that you have to understand your customers, and by that, I actually mean, get out and talk to these people at scale. Don't pitch your idea or just try to forget about your idea of an event, of a product, or whatever you're doing, and actually have conversations, 20 conversations with different ICPs and just scale them. Like meet casually for a coffee, try to understand their world, virtual coffee. And one of the insights that I had by actually doing that is the insight that they basically build this community. So salespeople want to be or curious in marketing and vice versa. And that really hit me. And I would never expect, that an insight like that to happen. But every time when I ask people, hey, Charles, why did you end up doing what you're doing? Why you're not involved in marketing? Why in sales? They never had a real answer. And they were actually, yeah.
Finish and I'll tell you my answer to that.
Let's make it interactive. What's yours?
So I started in marketing with various agencies, let's say Facebook ads, AdWords, and all that website. And to me, marketing is more automation. It's more technology. Sales is more personalized. It's more human. It's more one-to-one. And what I'm seeing is emerging between each, and sales being more automated and more scalable and more one-on-one. But yeah, there's various definitions, because when I think of marketing, I think of ads. And I mean, a cold email could be an ad. So it's kind of vague, but yeah, sales. And also, ironically, I started on the phone. When I had my first agencies, I would cold call 200 folks a day. So I did sales to sell marketing products.
So you just basically proved what I was talking about. You have an experience in marketing and in sales, just like any other sales or marketing person out there, most of them, 90%. or a general curiosity. If they're involved in sales, they want to try marketing. They're open to that idea. And based on that premise, we created this project where you can experience that, and you don't have to, get out there and get your marketing job and just spend a year or two and understand that, hey, ads, it's not what I want to do with my life. You can attend just a basic event and, become a contestant and just try doing targeting in metadata with their CMO teaching you that.
Question for you, Justin. The most successful SDRs or people that you've seen in hype cycle events, what characteristics do they share?
It's fascinating, but a lot of times the marketers did really well in the cold call matches or applying the SDR work. I mean, to be fair, if you're doing an SDR drill, you're typically a marketer because we switch the coaches. But it's just interesting to see that they either had sales development work in the past or they practiced. They would go internally, their own sales team, practice the scripts, and they took it really seriously. That's fine. I mean, a lot of salespeople wing it. We have other positive traits because we're fearless sometimes, and there's plenty of good introverted sellers as well. But I think the whole point of this venue is like adaptability, coachability, willingness to be coached and apply things and be a little wobbly while doing it, get out of your comfort zone. And so it's nice to see everybody become uncomfortable and learn something. And there's a slight learning curve when they do it again. So that's the best answer, right?
JM, you're a coach. I'm a coach too. Julia, you probably do some coaching too. How does one become coachable? Because sometimes, I offer good advice. Sometimes I listen, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm resisting the advice, whether it's the ego or I don't know, like, hey, that's my background. I don't want to come to your hype cycle because I'm doing that every day. You've probably felt it in my answer. So how does one become more coachable?
Yeah, so I'm not a coach, Charles. Don't mean to disappoint, but I have 4 projects, and I'm based in Tel Aviv, full disclosure. So I'm working pretty much, around the clock. And on the positive side of it, I had a lot of coaches, different realms, and the biggest, in my opinion, curious, Justin, what you would have to say, is growth mindset. It's on the side of the person who is trying to get the coaching versus the coach. If you don't have a growth mindset and you are not willing to change and you don't trust the coach, you won't have any result.
One last question, because we're hitting time here. Hype cycles branding is special, just like you are, Julia. The name and the name is like special. You might have got comment on that. And the brand, I love the branding, like the colors, the futuristic aspect to it. What feedback do you get out of it? And how did you come up with that branding at first?
Yeah, it's a collaboration. It's always a teamwork. And it's funny because we would normally, I would just give a creative direction, then I would bring Justin into the Figma file and ask him some, questions. Hey, what do you think about this or that? And just involve more people and show it to more people. And then based on, collective vision, we kind of launch it and go with it. We launched probably one of the first black and white websites in B2B, if you can imagine. B2B used to be like Blue, Calibri, very regulated and proper. It's good sound on the background, I'm sorry.
Aliens.
And hi from the future. But yeah, we just launched it, and in probably 3 months, majority of companies in our industry went black and white too. And one of the, other communities that you probably know rebranded also. And it became really difficult to see a difference between hype cycle and that other community once they share the promotional material on LinkedIn. So we pivoted and we pivot again and again because we get copied again and again. And it's an interesting journey.
It is. Where can people find out more about you guys?
In the metaverse, LinkedIn, Justin.
Go to hypecycle.com. You'll spell it wrong and then it'll just find it anyway because we have enough generic SEO piled up that you'll see it. Just put in GTM games. It'll take you to the page. You can log in with LinkedIn. And yeah, if you badge your profile, Hypecycle, you get unlock all of the games we've ever done and just follow us on LinkedIn. And we're having a lot of fun with this thing and can't wait to talk about June, but won't. Some awesome things are coming down the pike.